faster than the adults with 100% accuracy. And they go, the machines are hard, this is easy.
And the kids did it with about 5 minutes of watching the adults do it. They didn't have instructions. They watched over the shoulders of the adults. They figured it out on their own, went and did it, 12 to 17 years old. They nailed it, 100% accurate, in 2 minutes quicker than the adults that have been traveling all over Arizona training people for a year. Of course, kids can see and hear, so that kind of helps too. Kids are very good at doing that. They condition the gullible to trust the risk-limiting audits. They've got everyone thinking the RLA is the best thing in the world. In different states, they call it slightly different things, okay? Post-election audit, RLA, it's all the same crap. They explain any mistakes they do find as isolated human error. So if you're lucky enough to find a mistake, they'll say, oh, it was just a glitch. Like, it's an election oopsie. They make so many election oopsies, it's pretty incredible. But when you're in the county, and you only see an oopsie in your county, and you don't see all the other oopsies in all the other counties like I do as I travel all around, you don't really understand what you're looking at. But when you see oopsie, 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 it looks a little bit like crap. Then they claim if you do find a bunch of mistakes, they'll tell you this. Well, all the mistakes, it wouldn't change the results of the election, so we're not going to bother investigating, right? You'll hear that a lot. It's below the margin of loss, so we're not going to bother investigating. Then they create headroom. They removed the citizenship question off the census. You remember that many years ago? We couldn't figure out why they removed that question. Like, do you really think people are breaking into our country to fill out the census? Do you remember any of the riots from all the illegals that were breaking in, demanding to fill the census out? Do you guys remember those riots? The year of what? Nothing, because it didn't effing happen? Because people aren't breaking into the country and demanding to fill out the census? Hey, I broke into the country. Can I have some paperwork to tell you who I am and where I'm at? Give me a break. They removed the question to create a census that's now unverifiable, to be able to inflate the census. Can you have 2,000 people registered to vote if you only have a population of 1,000? Nope. And if you're stuffing a bunch of voter registration records in to create headroom in order to manipulate the election, you can't have more voters than you have population. So first you have to inflate the census, inflate the population to create headroom, so you can then inflate the voter registration records. And there's a number of different ways they creatively do that so they don't get caught, or they have plausible deniability on, oh, it was a typo, and oh, it was that, no, it was that. Look at Dr. Jerome Corsi's work, absolutely brilliant. Andrew Paquette, Dr. Andrew Paquette is absolutely brilliant as well. He's found and cracked the code like Ed Sullivan has in the tabulators. Jerome Corsi and Andrew Paquette cracked the code in the voter registration. People, they have engineered the theft of this nation. And you click on the picture of the RV, you can download a brief I wrote for Jim Jordan, and it's titled, Engineered Theft of a Superpower. And I wrote that for him 2 years ago, and it was handed to him, right to his hands, the day before the weaponization hearings. And my name and number, right in there, not a peep. It was also handed to a lot of other members of Congress. I was a little naive back then. I figured if the right people got this information, they'd say, oh, we're going to get. They already know. They know elections are manipulated. That's the game they play. It's this team versus this team up there in the club. As George Carlin says, it's a big club and you and I are not in that club. Okay? The club plays a cheating game while we all get effed down here. That's what's happening. Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, I don't care. We are all getting the short end of the stick. We have to understand that this is not a D versus R thing at all. It's not a color thing. It's not a sex thing. It's not a religion thing. It's literally a bunch of criminals who want to control our elections and the people that need to control the elections. That's it. They've used the mainstream media, social media, and officials to condition the public. They tell us there's going to be record voter registrations, of course, because they're going to stuff a bunch of voter registrations in. So when they stuff all the registrations in, if they just showed up, we'd say, wait a minute, where all those come from? But if they condition the public first, they're really good at doing that. If they condition us first and say, there's record voter registration this year. You see all these voter registration drives all over the place, and you got some tall, skinny, long-haired guy prancing around the whole country, taking in millions of dollars, doing these mass voter registrations. What great cover to stuff the voter rolls everywhere, right? They've taken the voter registration away from the counties. They've outsourced them to NGOs. They have motor voter pretty much everywhere in every state now, because their goal is just to get as many voter registration records in the system as possible, because that means they can stuff in phantom ballots to counter the real votes. That's that front-end manipulation, the pre-counting manipulation. They're also registering our underage kids to vote, right? They do that because when they turn 18, those records automatically activate. Also, what happens when they're 18? They kind of go off to college, right? So they're not even there at home anymore. So why would you want to get someone pre-registered to vote in a place they won't even be at? Unless you just want to stuff those voter rolls as much as possible. That's why they're doing it. They create phantom voters. They create new records or tweak existing. If they tweak existing and just change like a letter or a number, you'll see that all the time. They also inhibit pruning of ineligible records. If your dog Fido got registered to vote somehow, and you walked in there with Fido and said, my dog got a ballot, somehow he's on the voter rolls, can you please get him off the voter rolls? That clerk would look at you, all right, that is present, I wish it was. So what they'll do is you'll say, Miss Clerk, Fido is registered to vote somehow, and Miss Clerk would look down Fido, but unfortunately, according to state law, I have to wait for Fido to not vote in 2 presidential election cycles before I can remove him from the voter rolls. Look at you with a straight face and tell you that. Because our clerks, a lot of them have been so brainwashed or so scared to veer or to say anything, they just follow state law blindly. It's crazy. Feedback loop. Measure, assess, adjust, and act. Here's how this works. Mainstream media, FBI, DHS, CIA, CISA as conditioning tools. They tell us there's going to be record voter participation. Okay? Then the citizens cast their votes. They monitor who votes. Okay? Here's how they do it. If I knew what your party affiliation was, what is it, by the way? Are you Republican or Democrat or Libertarian? Right there, you. Republican. Okay, all right. So you're Republican. So I would have a pretty good idea of what your ballot's going to look like if I had to guess what you're going to vote, right? I'd be like 90% right. Okay. Now, what if I had all this other data on you? What if I bought all that free data that's harvested from your cell phone? All your Amazon purchase data, your Visa data, all your tweets, everything about you I got. And if I got all that information, I knew everything about you, then how close would I be on your ballot? About 99.9%, right? I'd know pretty much every way you're going to vote. So it's very simple to take all this data, build a profile on every single American citizen to know exactly how they're going to vote. They already know what's on the ballot. They've got a profile built on you. To know if you voted. Well, if you vote by mail, they built this wonderful system called a mail-in ballot tracking system. And they told all of us they built it for us because, the peasants are stupid and we believe crap like that. And then if they tell us they're going to build it for us, we're going to end up paying for it. And if they get caught building it, they don't really get caught because they told us they were building it. But they didn't build it for our convenience. They built it for their convenience to know when we put a ballot in the mail. And if they know you put a ballot in the mail and they already have a profile on you, they can build a predictive election result model. Do you remember that video we watched a little while ago? It talked about predictive modeling. There's your predictive model. They build a predictive election result model just by knowing you have deposited a ballot in the mail. And if you show up in person to vote, you get checked in on an electronic poll book. When you get checked in on that electronic poll book, they know immediately you showed up in person to vote. And so it doesn't matter whether you vote by mail or you vote in person, they know you're there and they can fortify their predictive election result model. If they know what the results of the election are in their model and they know what they want them to be, all they have to do is subtract, and they know exactly what ballots and what needs to be on those ballots as they stuff them in to counter your votes. It's really easy. How are they going to do that? Oh, mail-in ballots. Amazing. Because a received mail ballot, nobody has any idea who filled that ballot out. It doesn't matter what's on the signature. It doesn't matter if the signature is perfect. How do you know who filled out the ballot inside the envelope? How would any election official know who filled out that ballot inside the envelope? The answer is there is no way for anyone to know who filled the ballot out. The signature is a distraction to confuse the peasants. That's all it is. It's a warm fuzzy. It's a false sense of security. It's a facade. Mail-in ballots, the entire security of mail-in ballots, we are told, is the signature verification. It's BS. It's designed improperly from the get-go. It's defective in its design right from the start on purpose. These people are not stupid. They're very intelligent. That's why we can't have mail-in ballots. But if I monitor all that information about you, I can feed my result model, I can calculate what's needed, and I just stuff the votes in. Now, could I do that all in one day? I could not do it in one day. I need a little bit more time to do that. So what am I going to do? I want to extend the voting period. If I just did that, the peasants would say, no, do not do that. We have election day only. The Constitution says election day. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, you're all very busy. So for your convenience, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a couple days of early voting for your convenience. It's actually for theirs, but they tell us it's for ours. And then 2 days is enough. They start with 3 and then 5, and then, oh, that county has 7 days and that state has 14 days. And you know some states have 45 days of early voting now? The reason they want the early voting is because it gives them opportunities to get all that information to build their model early enough so they have plenty of time to put those votes in the system. It backfired though, originally. Here's why. Raise your hand if you're a procrastinator. All procrastinators, raise your hand. Okay, everyone that has not raised their hands yet is just procrastinating, so we'll wait. Told you. See, I know things. My gut is always right. Everyone procrastinated. And what would happen is, everyone waited till election day anyway, and it wasn't working for them. So they had to condition the public to vote as early as possible. So what did they do? They took advantage of anything bad that happened on election day, even induced some things on election day, and then they plastered that all over the media to scare everyone blindly to vote as early as possible. Like if you ask someone suffering TDS, why do you like them? They can't even answer, they just get angry. If you to ask someone that votes early, why do you vote early? They can't really answer that either. They come up with like, oh, there could be a snowstorm, or there could be this. They can't really rationalize a real answer. Some people can, but very few. Can we all vote on election day if we want? Yes, absolutely. Most all of us could vote on election day because somehow we did it for like over 150 years. All right, and we have even better transportation these days. I'm pretty sure we can get our butts to go vote. It's all a frickin' scam. Intelligent people. So they do that. They've got early voting. And then what happens on election day voters? They hate election day voters because they don't get any advanced data. When election day voters show up, they have no idea how you're going to vote or if you're going to vote. They don't know anything. Then when you show up, they know they can count your vote, but they know only on that day. So what do they have to do? They got to stuff ballots in after election day, and then they've got to give you like a week for them to show up because, you know, the U.S. Postal Service, they get surprised every time. They're like, have you ever been driving and all of a sudden like a tree just pops up out of nowhere and you run right into the tree? Like, that's what happens, I guess, to election day also with USPS. Is like, oh, damn, we have an election, just popped up out of nowhere. We weren't ready for it. I'm pretty sure they knew election day was coming. But somehow, the U.S. Postal Service, which barely delivers any mail anymore because everyone's emailing, they suddenly just can't get ballots delivered. Every single time. They're just too inundated, too slow to get ballots delivered. That's what they're feeding in the counter for the election day ballots. It's really simple. And if they still can't pull it off, well, they just have their override. It's real simple. They override it. They stop counting in the middle of the night. They feed you results. Everyone freaks out. They say, oh, don't worry. Those are the unofficial results. Just settle down, everyone. And then they drag it out and drag it out and drag it out, and they put out the official results right before it's got to be certified, so we have no time to actually do anything about it. Because people aren't going to verify the unofficial. They're going to have to wait till the official come out to start verifying, and then, oh, you only have 2 days. They have gamed this entire thing out. And I'm happy to go over in detail how they do this when we meet. Then they shuffle the voter registrations, they backfill any results, they'll backfill paper, they'll delay any potential audits like Maricopa County that took forever, they publish their official results, and then everything matches, magically. Alright, I'm not going to go in, unfortunately, Hyder, you luck out, my friend. We don't have to go into you here. Alright, so, we had the Tina Peters thing, I was going to show you this. Boy, it's tough. Alright, can I do this? And I don't want to steal time away from some very important people, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to not show you the vote flipping right now, but maybe I'll talk to Ed and I'll see if I can get maybe 10 minutes later on after dinner, or if we have a break, maybe we can squeeze something in, and I will show you all the built-in software on the voting system that allow you to flip the results of the election, okay? Built in, it's really important. I'm just going to have to do this really quick. Screw it. I'll have to do it really quick. We'll take time elsewhere. Sorry. It's just too important. I mean, these guys are here, so it has to happen. All right, hold on. I can do it quick, it turns out. Okay, here we go. Look at it. Or should we go? All right, let's see. Find it. There we go. Okay, so let's go here. You're going to see the world's fastest election flipping extravaganza here. So this is the EMS server, and this is the system that aggregates all the votes. I found SQL Server tools in here, not supposed to be on here. This is a tool built into the voting system, automatically built in, and this is on Tina's image, the before image. Okay, this software should not be on here, but watch what it allows me to do. I don't even have to put a password here. I can just click connect, it goes right into the database. So think about that. Like, don't you think these voting system vendors, do you think they add a password? It might be safer if you add a password to it. You shouldn't be able to go into all these elections. Look at this. I go right to the election here. This is the 2020 general election, by the way. And watch this here. I can edit. That means I can make changes to it really easily. And I can actually flip votes. Now, I want to show you this. Let's pull the results first of the election, because you won't even know if I actually was able to successfully do it if we don't look at the results. And we'll look at stored procedures. And there we go. Contest results. And we're going to run this, pull the results of the election there. And here is I'm running the query. Oh my gosh, 8%. This is quick. This will be quick. Okay, look at that. Biden, 31,000. Trump, 56,000. Right? Okay, now watch this here. I'm going to go over here. This is a tool built into the voting system, by the way. Built in. I'm going to change this number from 1 to a 2. That's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to find Trump. Right there. I'm going to change that 2 to a 1. I changed 2 numbers, right? Let's run the results again. Watch this. What do you know? Biden, 56,000. Trump, 31,000. With a tool built into the voting system, I was able to flip the results of that election just now. That's all I needed. That's simple. Now, I've got a flash drive right here. See it? Okay, I'm going to plug this flash drive into my computer right now. And I'm going to keep my hands up here so you can see I'm not typing this. But this flash drive is a special flash drive. And it is building up another backdoor utility on the voting system that's already built into it, by the way. Oh my gosh. This is going to be really interesting. I do. I don't know if you can get it in time, though. Oh, uh-oh. Don't you love it when computers do stuff that you don't want them to do? All right. Let me see if I can close this without, there we go. Okay, we're going to try this again. Lenovo, please. Just last. Come on, battery. Pray. Pray to the battery gods, everyone. So it's pulling up the other backdoor utility on here. And what it's going to do is it's going to go into the database, and it's going to run. It is USB, yeah. I might have got it. We'll see if we got time. I did. Okay, so it just did it, and it disappeared without leaving a trace. Okay, now watch this. We're going to pull these results again. Okay, contest results. Execute stored procedure. I love Patriots. That's great. All right, now we're running. Now watch the results. Look at that. Biden 31,000, Trump 56. It just swapped the results by plugging in a flash drive. Now, everyone here, open up your phones and look for your wireless networks, and you tell me when you see wireless backdoor. Because this little flash drive is not only a keyboard emulator that runs a backdoor that's already on the voting system, but it also is a wireless access point that lets you get right into the voting system to flip the results of the election from wherever you're sitting or outside. Raise your hand, the first person that sees it. There we go. You cannot secure these systems. There is no way, there's nothing you can do to secure the system. And I'm going to unplug it because I don't want any of you screwing up with my presentation. Okay, I had to show you all that, and there's plenty more I could show you too, but that was really important. Okay, let me hit a few lessons I want to go into. Oh, see, I can never do this in time. Okay, follow me on X. Patriot Mark Cook, very important. And I think I'll do these last ones here. I've been traveling all over the country, by the way. and this is my route on handcountroadshow.org. If you have not signed up for a visit, please sign up, even if it's a remote visit. I need to educate people. There's so much critical information I have to get to the citizens here. Also, I've been helping with South Korea's elections. I got called about a year ago to start looking at South Korea's stuff, and I started looking at it, and I saw the same things that were happening here, the same Swiss cheese election system I saw there too, and I said, oh my gosh, you guys have a problem. It's the same thing's about to happen in South Korea, I guarantee it. Here's what they're doing, here's how they're going to do it. And then a few months ago, I got a call, I did a presentation remotely, I did another presentation about a month later with a great group of people from South Korea, and we've actually created this little task force, a united task force, and they are coming, right? Come on down. All right, so we're going to welcome our South Korean friends because they just had a very corrupt election a few days ago, like on 6/3, they had that election, but they listened to the guidance I provided, and they got tons of very valuable data, and they caught them. They caught their elections getting stolen. And these people are amazing heroes. Now, they're in the same boat. They're right now in the 2020 phase. Like, they caught them like we caught them, but now they're fighting their own government that's corrupt. And so Dr. Frank, by the way, I could not go out there. They wanted me to go out before the election. I couldn't make it out because of what I was doing with the roadshow and all this. So Dr. Frank went out on site. So he went and spent about a week or 10 days or something out in South Korea on the ground, going 2 weeks, going site to site to site, seeing all of it with his own eyes. And if you don't know who Dr. Douglas Frank is, I'm going to let him explain to you the background. How many of you people know who Dr. Frank is? Raise your hand. I'm expecting a room full here. Oh, then you are in for a huge treat. Come on up here, though. All right, we got our friends here. I'm going to let him do the introductions. And I'll jump back in after. I'm going to bring them in. We're going to do a South Korea focus. And I'm going to stay up here because we're going to all talk together, but mostly it's going to be them. And then I'm going to finish up with about a 5-minute closing at the end of that.
Chairs out so they can sit.
We'll get the chairs out. Yeah, thank you. He's not only is he a brilliant mathematician and an incredible presenter and a hilarious teacher as well, and he can sing. I don't know if you know this, but the man can sing. Maybe he'll grace us with a little bit of something. Come on up, and I'll let him do intros. Let me get a mic here. And he can take a chairs here. There you go. Okay.
Come on up, brother.
Come on, everyone come on.
So you two ladies, we brought a Korean flag for you. See you two ladies come right here to the front. There we go. They're figuring it out. All right.
While they do that, we are fighting the same war. Okay, we're just in two different nations, but we are going to unite against this common enemy. Because the enemy is corrupted elections, and it's destroying their nation, it's
They're
destroying
good
our
at
nation.
not good at flag folding. There we go. All right, there we go. Come on here in front. All right. So, right now, as we speak, and I'm not exaggerating, there are hundreds of thousands of people in South Korea that have surrounded their Seoul Athletic Stadium, and they are waving flags, just wave flags, woo! And they are shouting, "Yoon again." And why are they shouting "Yoon again"? Because he's the president that they did elect that's now in prison. And so they've lost the presidency. So I thought we would help them out and we would join them for a moment. So wave the flag and everybody say with me, hold up the "Yoon again" signs. We're going to say, "Yoon again! Yoon again! Yoon again! Yoon again! Yoon again!" All right, good, we got that. The other thing they're saying, and it's amazing to have, I got to stand in front of like 50,000 people. It's kind of a crazy thing. There's a mixture of people, I'll tell you about it in a minute. But they're also saying re-election. But that's not quite the way they're saying it, right? How are they saying re-election?
부정선거, 재선거. It means election vote and re-election.
Re-election. Yeah. So we'll say re-election because I don't think you can say it. All right. So let's help them out. We're going to say re-election. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Re-election. 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 And what's fun is they're doing this. They're waving flags like this, but also waving American flags because they really want us to help them. They're desperate. They're very concerned because they lost their presidency. It's now they don't say communists; they say they're leftists, but they're communists. They're leftists, and they've lost their national assembly as well. It's like our Congress. It's now to the left after 2. Guess what? 2 corrupt elections in a row. Okay, so they've lost their country. The judiciary is corrupt. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Okay. And so they have no recourse, and North Korea is right there with China right there, and so they are desperate. So they are also asking for hand counting. How about that? So let's join the chant. Let's say hand counting. Ready? Hand counting, hand counting, hand counting, hand counting. Right, I get fun to be part of like 1 million people chanting at once. It's pretty good. You just join them over there. And then there's one other chant that they're doing. They're saying same day or one day. What do they say? Same day or one day? Translate.
Same day election.
Same day election. What they mean by that is one day elections, like we have. So let's say same day elections. Ready, and same day elections. Same day elections. Same day elections. Very good. All right. I think that's good enough for our little demonstration. And maybe the rest of you can sit down and I'll introduce them to you. Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. Yeah, sure. That's fine.
I love it. I love it. I'm so glad they're here. I've been on the phone with them for a couple weeks, and it is wonderful to be able to see them. We might have more chairs we need. Oh, you probably want. Shall I move on with stuff?
Yeah, plug my HDMI.
Let me move on my stuff for him.
Yeah.
Keep on going on.
I think my computer's turning on. But in the meantime, so what happened is I got a call from Mike Liddell because the former Prime Minister, Quan is the former Prime Minister and was president for 2 years. He came to see that. He brought his translator with him, Jennifer, and they gave a speech in CPAC. That deserves a response from him. So I'm just going to shut up and let him respond. What would you say to the people today?
첫째는 만나서 반갑습니다.
First of all, I'm very happy to meet you all.
특별히 한미가 만나서 반갑습니다.
I think it's special because Korea is meeting the United States.
둘째는 정의가 세워지는 날이어서 기쁩니다.
And it is the day when justice is prevailing.
거짓과 겹겹이 쌓여있는 부정선거가 드러날 때가 다 되었기 때문에 여러분과 함께 기뻐하고 싶습니다.
I want to be joyful together with you because the days of election fraud will be numbered. It will be all exposed.
셋째로 이제 승리가 얼마 남지 않았습니다.
The day of victory is near.
오래 싸웠고 힘들었고 어려웠지만 이제는 고지가 바로 눈앞에 보이는 것 같습니다.
The fight was long and arduous, but I think we are coming to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
미국에서는 트럼프 대통령이 그들을 다 걷어버리고 있습니다.
In the United States, President Trump has worked well and has made all the evil forces behind election fraud go away.
대한민국에서도 이제 바뀌어가고 있습니다. 지금 서울에는 정말 큰 집회가 열려지고 있는데 잠실에 올림픽 공원에서 정말 수많은 사람들이 모여서 정의를 외치고 있습니다.
South Korea is also changing at this very moment. In Olympic Park, hundreds of thousands of young people are demonstrating against election fraud.
Thank you very much.
All right, sorry. Yes. Kamsahamnida means thank you. I had to word a little bit. So this, what you're seeing here is, get this, 200,000 college students. Okay. And the demographics there are interesting because we fought the Korean War there in 1950 and 53, and we sent our people over there. So the older people remember communism. They remember the effect of it. So the older people are very awake and they want to fight for their freedom. And then the younger people are all awake because they don't like the government telling them what to do. Just like our kids. Right? But the middle generation, they are all educated in the West. Guess what? They left. Just sort of sounds like us. So the demographics are interesting. You've got the older folks that remember the Korean War. You've got the younger kids that are like, we're not going to put up with this crap anymore. And then you've got the church. This is a huge thing about South Korea that was just amazing to me. Here in America, a lot of states where I talk, and you've seen some of my talks around the country, the states won't even, the churches don't want to hear about elections. They don't want to talk about elections. But in Korea, they see this as an existential threat. Why? Because they had this massive Christian revival 140 years ago. And in Korea, South Korea, all of Korea became a very Christian place. Then the war happened, and North Korea basically slaughtered all of its Christians. It's illegal to be a Christian in the North. And so that's a serious thing. So if the North moves into the South Korea, they are afraid. The churches are afraid. So actually the churches are the third arm. And I wish I had the video queued up, but I had to rush down because I was just on band. We're trying to make this public. You need to realize what's happening in Korea. I'll explain it. But anyway, the third leg is the churches. They are awake and engaged. And I was invited to speak at some of their churches. They love Americans. And they're a very Christian nation. They understand that their success in the world has been because of their faith and because of their relationship with the United States. So this is a big deal to them. So that's a little different. Here's the thing. In 2024, they had an election, a national election, and they put in a president, President Yoon. Right? That's what we're saying, Yoon again. And it was his first time in politics. He'd been a prosecutor up until then. And he got into office, and he looked around his country, and he discovered massive election fraud in his country. And he panicked, and he declared martial law. And he sent the troops to what's called the NEC, the National Election Commission, to recover the servers. Well, he was unsuccessful, and 3 hours later, the National Assembly, like our Congress, took him back out of office. They overrode the what did I call it a minute ago? Anyway, his state of emergency. They overwhelmed, and he's now in prison. And so then they had another election, and they put a leftist in, and now the National Assembly is taking over. So what's happened is they have no recourse. The Korean people have no recourse. There's no legal recourse. There's no. How can you elect new leaders in when the elections are corrupt? So they're feeling desperate. But let me just back up for a minute. I have to tell you a story. So those of you who know me know I'm a numbers guy. I like going into counties and analyzing the voter rolls and finding all kinds of fraud. That's what I like doing. So I went over there to him, who's been running election integrity team there for about 8 years. I went over there to help them. And I thought I was going to be bringing all my smart tools with me and showing them what to do. No, they're very, very advanced. They've already exposed tons of fraud in their country. But they have the same problem there that we have here. Doesn't matter how much evidence we have. We have mountains of evidence. We have a media that suppresses it. We have a media that mocks us and calls us conspiracy theorists. And we have people that are asleep and don't know what's happened to them. What happened in Korea is something extra special. They have 2 days of early voting. I think Mark, you mentioned that. And then there's a break, and then they have single-day elections in person on paper. It's pretty cool. But what happened was, on election day, many of the conservative provinces were not sent enough ballots. How about that? Okay, does that sound kind of familiar? And also they were running out because they had multiple people voting multiple times, and so that was depleting the supply of ballots. Now, you have to imagine the way these people live. It's different than us, and it's kind of interesting. They live in, like, suburban groups of towers. They live, it's not like here we're spread out. They have these, like, 10 large towers all living together, thousands of people living together. And they all go downstairs and they vote in a little polling place, and they all vote there. Well, they didn't deliver enough ballots. So the people that said, well, give us more ballots. And the NEC said, no, we're just going to count what we got already. Okay? So what happens? 10,000 people come down out of the towers and surround the polling place and tell the government, we're not giving you these ballots until you give us enough so we can all vote. Right? It's like a built-in, ready-made movement. And that's where Mr. comes in, because he was first on the scene and brought me with him. It was pretty awesome to see the people rising up like that and telling the government to pound sand. That was pretty cool. All right, and then once they started, then other precincts had the same problem. They started waking up. Before we knew it, within a day, we had hundreds of thousands of people all around the country because we found 140 places like this where they had under-delivered ballots. Guess where? The conservative, right-leaning places. It's exactly what you would expect. So that's kind of the flavor. Now, I know these people now. I got to hang out with them for 2 weeks, and I'm a changed person because they are amazing, warm people, and they love Americans. They just, all I had to do was walk in with my bow tie, and I'm like a hero. And it was amazing because around the stadium there in Seoul, there's like 50,000 people that have surrounded the stadium. They're not letting the police have the ballots. And they won't let any of the officials in, nothing. But Mr. Wong and I walk up, and it's like part of the Red Sea. And they bring us right up to the front, and USA, USA. They love us. And but it's not just that they love us. They need us. They need President Trump to say some things. And that will fuel them and fuel their movement and keep them strong while they're doing this fight. They also need us to bring pressure to do a re-election, because that election is obviously invalid. But there's something that's really, really amazing that I experienced while I was there. And that is that they aren't just saying, come save us, America, please, we're puny little wimpy Koreans. They're not saying that. They're saying, we're ready to fight. But what's interesting is, how come we're not? And so they're saying to us, we want to help the U.S. We want to help you guys get your act together. Okay? So that's a really important thing. They are not just saying, oh, please save us, we're so wimpy. They're not saying that. They're saying, we're going to fight, but we want you to fight with us. And here are a couple of reasons why, United States, why we want you to fight with us. The first one is, Camp Humphreys is right there. It's the largest offshore military base we have. It's there for a reason. It's our stake in the ground for holding back communism from the peninsula. So they're saying, are you going to defend this base or not? So that's one really good reason. Another big reason and Chu Hyun introduced it to me. It's called AWEB, A-W-E-B. Stands for the Association of World Election Bodies. And it's basically election fraud central for the whole world. Okay? It's the home base of the international election fraud cartel. And they have been exporting election fraud and electronic machines all around the world. So they're saying to us, look, you guys, if you want to stop fraud in your country, you're going to need to take out AWEB. So they're saying, help us take out AWEB. You're not just helping us, you're helping yourself. And there's all these mutual reasons why we should be standing strong with them. And they understand that better than we do. I just want you to notice something. Have you seen this reported on Fox? No. Why are you watching it? Okay. You shouldn't be. In fact, I was just on Bannon. That's what you should be watching, right? Because we're telling, the world needs to know this is happening. We just lost South Korea. June 3rd. Their government is now communist. Okay? And starting next month, they've already started limiting free rights already. This is a serious issue. And notice, the mainstream media is not talking about it. In both countries. I wonder why. They want it to be quiet. Now, there's a second thing I need to tell you about. During Trump's first term in 2018, he appointed an ambassador. His name is Ambassador Morris Tan. He's a great man. I arrived at the airport with him when I flew in. By the way, the Korean people, they give you flowers when you arrive at the airport. It's kind of nice. Thank you for that. It's like they pampered me everywhere. It's pretty nice. But anyway, so I arrived with Morris Tan, and we dressed in plain clothes. No bow ties, no nothing, because we were afraid they would not let us in. That should alert you to something. South Korea is not a free nation anymore when we have to lay low to get in. Okay, so now we're in the country. He was met at the airport by people, policemen who wanted to take him in for questioning, because he had observed the election a year earlier with a delegation from America. And he came back to America, and during a press briefing, he basically announced what had happened. And he also mentioned some very questionable things, which I don't want to get into now, about their current president, their current illegitimate president. They don't even call him the current president. And, you know, this guy they have up there in the office, he's illegitimate. Well, they want to sue Morris Tan for libel while he's in the country. So they put a travel ban on him. He cannot leave the country. So we had to do like this little bit of cat and mouse stuff. We changed hotels a couple of times, and we were always careful whenever we went to public events to have plenty of security. And when the police started showing up, that's something else that's weird. Everywhere we went, Chu Hyun did an amazing job. He brought me to early voting sites. We observed that. He brought me to the counting sites. He brought me to all these different locations and basically taught me the entire system. He just did a brilliant job. Let's give him a hand. Give him a hand. Huge big hand. So we would like arrive at a place, and all the people, it's amazing, they all pull their cell phones out. These people are here, these people are here. And then the cops start showing up. And as they began to show up, then the security team would rush us off. What kind of a country? You can't travel. And that should tell you that South Korea isn't what you think it is. It's been taken over by the communists. We're in trouble. They need our help. And so that's why we brought the delegation here, because we need you guys to know when we need President Trump to know. And if it's just me writing an email, he probably won't read it. Okay, but if we bring the people here, and they're amazing people, and great to work with. So, how about that for a summary, Mark? Where are you, buddy?
I'm already here.
Oh, I got to tell you something else.
Listen, I know I'm short, but
Oh, sorry. Can you tell I'm just a little excited? Just a little excited. I mean, it was a life-changing thing. To experience communism close up like that really has kind of woken me up. I'm a physicist. I'm a scientist. I spent most of my life in the lab and grew up on a farm. I just, never had a direct encounter like that. And the thing about it is everything I saw about the elections, everything I saw happening there is happening here. Right now. And especially Colorado, especially Oregon, especially Washington, especially California. And yet our people are asleep. And our people are asleep because you're not waking them up. We need to have 200,000 people marching around the buildings in LA saying, this is not acceptable, we're not going to let this go on. But we're kind of all just sitting around waiting for somebody else to fix it. That's our problem. We need to wake up and engage. So
no one's coming. It's us, and it's them, and it's us together.
Yes. So yes, in fact, we should all do it another 10. I'm probably done. Yes.
No.
You don't want to keep because
if you got more information, we got about 10 minutes.
Oh, perfect. You want a 5-minute wrap up? You said.
I do a 5-minute wrap up, but I got something before the 5-minute wrap up. A little thing. Let me ask you real quick.
So one of the yes, I know what he's doing. One of the things that's pretty cool. I told you I got to speak at the churches, and that's Mr. Tan there next to Jennifer. It's amazing to talk to the churches. The pastors actually say election fraud. Imagine that, to have pastors actually say things. That was impressive. And then the way they count, yes, they definitely have machines in their elections. They run their elections a little differently than ours. We have like one ballot we vote on. They have a piece of paper for every race, every candidate. And so when you go in to vote, they'll like hand you 7 pieces of paper, one for each thing you're going to vote on. So they put them through these sorting machines that sort them by race, sort them by contest. But then guess what happens? It goes through a scanner. And so this machine is connected to the internet. Imagine that. And so as the ballots are being scanned, they always know the totals. So just like here, that's why I always tell people here, the real problems with your machines, with our machines in America, are not necessarily that they flip ballots. They tell everybody on the outside what the tallies are, so you know how many ballots to stuff, how many to cheat. Same here, same exact mechanism, same software running, same feedback mechanism, same as everything. So that's same idea there. Now, after the election, what's cool is, normally we have to, what happens in America? A county brings me in, and I'll help them analyze it, we'll find some fraud. This is cool. It's like I'm a national hero. And all I did was walk into the vote. It was pretty cool. They really think of us as, they need us. They're desperate for us. They think of us as their blood brothers, because we are. We shed blood together. But so anyway. So what was really cool is after the election, their head person resigned, essentially admitting that their election was botched. And that is a huge thing. So what happened is, they have a party there called the PPP, the People's Power Party. It's supposed to be kind of like the Republican Party here, except that it's been infiltrated, and in their words, you guys call the PPP, what do you call the PPP?
Community.
We call them Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan.
We have that problem here.
They call the PPP rhinos, okay? Where did they get that idea? Okay?
And coaching.
Yes. And so what's happened is Mr. Huang used to be president of that. It would be like saying, the head of the Republican Party in America. And he resigned from there because it was no longer a right-leaning organization. And they're full of rhinos. And he started a new organization called the Freedom and Innovation Party, which of course now is growing like crazy because the people know that he's the real deal. And he's defending them. And they are promoting this alliance. And when I first saw this, I thought they were just kind of saying, well, Dr. Frank's going to come help us. They're saying we need to fight together. to eradicate global fraud, election fraud. And that's why they're here. They're here to say, come on, let's go, guys. And it should be kind of a little embarrassing to us that they had to come to us instead of we saying to them, hey, let's team up. But they're on fire, and it's great to work with them. And I know we're going to be going back. It's not just that they're losing their country. That matters. You have to realize this is a world issue. The entire world. I'll give you an example. The AWEB, they manipulated elections in the Congo. And a whole bunch of people from the Congo came and protested in South Korea. It's right there. It's sort of like the export hub because it's right adjacent to China. So it's China's port to the world, essentially. So
every country is being attacked by corrupt elections. Every single country. Freedom is being taken from all of us. And we all have to unite together and work together to fight this. We have to fight this. It's a common enemy. Our freedoms are being taken through the elections. It's that simple. And unfortunately, we probably have some bad actors in this country that have been doing it to other countries in addition to their own or our own. Because truly, it's a big club, and we aren't in it. They aren't in it. The citizens, the peons, the peasants are not in the big club. And all this does actually belong to us. We need to start acting like it. So you guys need to get loud. You need to bring awareness to what's happening in South Korea. You need to bring unity and learn from them, because I've seen some of the demonstrations where there are seas and seas and seas of people. I've seen more American flags at their demonstrations right now over this election than I've seen at some of our own. You look at LA County, and the parking lots are empty. There's no one in there. Literally, we're watching an election get stolen right from under us, right in front of our faces. Not a single American shows up to do anything about it. Yet in South Korea, they're filling their streets everywhere. So I'll tell you what, we got something to learn. We can learn from these patriots a whole lot. I don't know how they're proud. God bless them.
So they've taught us how to demonstrate.
Yes, learn. They are very good at it.
They are very good at it. And if you can go to the grocery store, you can demonstrate. So you have no excuse. We need to make this happen. We need to join this battle. It's a global battle.
It is, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. I feel like you have family now there.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
They're my brothers and sisters. Yeah, they're amazing people.
Yeah. So we're going to fight this all together.
The Freedom and Innovation Party headquarters.
And that's kind of like our grassroots, right?
Yeah. He started out as a small party because he left the party, but because at all these large demonstrations, he's the one, I should show that picture, he's the one out there fighting. You know what he said? He says, I need to get back to Korea. I can't stay here. Why? Because the people need me.
They're in the middle of a coup. So
they need
gotta
a good lead. So, but at the same time, it's important that you came here to engage us. This is what they're saying. They're chanting this together. Let's do it together. Let's chant for them. Ready? We go together. 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 I tell you, they've been doing that straight for 10 days.
They just had their own school with 6-3, right? June 3rd, they're still demonstrating to this day, and they came here in the middle of what their nation getting taken from them to be here with all of us for this event.
It's amazing. I'm standing in front of these huge crowds, and it's like, when are they going to stop? They just never stop. It's just constant chanting. It's amazing.
It is amazing. All right, so we had something also very special here, and we almost weren't able to get all of them here because of someone very special. His name is Isaac, and he's turning 9 years old today, and we're going to bring this young man up, and we are going to sing happy birthday to him. And this is Jennifer's son. Because he didn't get to be home with all his friends and family because he had to come in here to be a bodyguard for mom in this foreign nation. So this is
Say thank you very much. You know how to do that.
So we're going to sing a happy birthday to Isaac. Go ahead and sing. You know how to sing. Go ahead.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Isaac. Happy birthday to you.
I think, yeah, I'll close up here. And
Great to see y'all.
absolutely,
Go back to your neighborhoods and wake them up.
you got it. And if anyone would like to talk to our guests here while they're here, if you want to do any interviews or anything, I know they're probably inundated with them, but ask Dr. Frank, and let's make the most out of their trip as we possibly can to get as much awareness about what's happening. Election corruption, election fraud has no borders, and it's going to come take South Korea. We are very close to this. We almost lost this nation a couple of years ago. We came this close to it, and we may be in the same boat in a very short period of time. In less than 2 years, we can be right where they're at today. So we either do this together and we do this right, or we all might not really like the outcome of that, right? It could be very difficult. And we want Isaac to grow up in a free country, not a country that that's why we're fighting today. So that's something right there. I will let you do. Go ahead.
Okay.
Come on. Unless there's anything they want to say.
Is there any closing comment you want to make?
Please, any closing comments, please.
Would you like to say something? Hyun would like to say something.
2024년에 대한민국은 총선이 있었는데 그때 부정선거로 가짜 국회가 탄생을 했고 그 가짜 국회 때문에 대한민국 대통령이 탄핵되고 대한민국 체제가 붕괴되는 일이 있었습니다.
In 2024, there was a general election in Korea, and it was rigged. That's why the National Assembly was a fake National Assembly. And that National Assembly impeached the duly elected President, President Yoon.
그때 부정선거를 제대로 대비하지 못했기 때문에 졌는데 2026년 여러분 미국에서 중간선거가 있는 것으로 알고 있습니다. 그때 하루빨리 부정선거를 먼저 수사하고 척결을 해서 여러분들에게는 안전한 선거가 일어나서 진정한 민의가 반영되는 2026년 중간선거가 되면 좋겠습니다.
At that time, we did not prepare well against election fraud. That's why we lost the National Assembly and we lost our duly elected president. I know that there's a midterm coming up in November, and as a South Korean, I would like to ask you and urge you to prepare well ahead so that the election fraud could be rooted out, so you could keep your country safe.
미국은 한국과 같이 가야 할 나라이고 우리 한국은 한국과 같은 나라인데 반드시 정의가 승리하는 역사를 만들어 주시고 또 한국을 함속히 도와주셔가지고 함께 불의를 이기는 그런 승리 역사를 써왔으면 좋겠습니다. 그리고 한국은 정말 그 미국의 부정선거 척결 대상으로서 아주 좋은 나라입니다. 그래서 한국에서 부정선거를 척결하는데 미국이 도와주면 미국의 부정선거 척결에 훨씬 더 큰 도움이 될 거라고 생각합니다.
US and Korea should go together. We are more than friends, we are blood allies. And together we need to fight against injustice so that justice could prevail and we could write a new page in our history. If you take the election fraud in Korea and tackle it as your own, I think it will be an opportunity where you could test and hone your skills so that you could tackle election fraud that's happening in the United States ahead of the midterms in November.
We go together.
We go together! 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 Stop the steal! 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 Thank you very much!
Thank you guys very much. What a gift. God made all that happen, made the timing happen. It was amazing. Thank you guys very much. I know it's been a little long here because, that's kind of long we did. Quick video.
To America. Dear America, I'm a husband and father of 3. Well, 140 years ago, you came to our land and you taught us the Bible. So now I'm saved. Thank you. Thank you, America. In 1950 to 1953, you came to our land again. You fought for us. You protected us. Almost 36,000 American soldiers died, and more than 100,000 American soldiers got injured. You came to our land to protect us. You bled and died for us. You bled and died instead of us. Thank you. So I'm alive. And still, you're in our land. You still protected us. Thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't thank you enough. My brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers in America, in Christ, thank you and love you. From now, we're not gonna just ask for help. We want to fight for you now. America is the strongest country, but America is fighting a lonely fight. You have your family, brothers, and sisters here. From now on, we want to fight for you. America has to be stronger and wealthier. We want to make America stronger and wealthier and greater to protect people, protect the world, to protect freedom of faith. And thank you. So please help. It could be your words, military, finance. Give me some weapons so we can fight for you. Fight for freedom. Fight for freedom of the faith. Thank you. Love you, America.
Yeah, this John right here, by the way. We go together. Thank you. All right. So I'm in this to win it. I'm not going to stop. stop until I take my last breath, and the only way they're going to stop me is killing me. Follow me on X, Patriot Mark Cook. Go to my website, handcountroadshow.org, and I just want you to sign up to request a visit to wherever you're at, because as I'm traveling around this nation in my truck and trailer, I want to make every bit of every mile to plant all the seeds of knowledge necessary so we can regrow the liberty of our country as I travel through it all. So, and read all my articles on X too. There's a lot of really good information there, trust me. Go to my profile, go to articles, and just read every one of them. Most of them are very short, but they're really important information. And please reach out all you like. I've devoted my life to trying to do everything I can to reclaim the liberty of and reignite the flame of liberty in this great nation. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. And I'm going to hand this off to Matt here.
Mark, thank you so much. What I'd like to say real quickly that Jennifer can tell the Korean folks, as a Marine, we would fly from Iwakuni, Japan to Osan Air Force Base in Songtang City, South Korea. There was a woman there who owned a restaurant. She was a little girl during the Korean War. I'm probably going to mispronounce the word, but she'd call me Maguk. Maguk? She would not let us pay for any food. She goes, "You saved my country. You don't owe me any, I owe you." They just reminded us who we're supposed to be. We're America. We got to remember that. So thank you so much. Louis Herms, where are you? Right here. Okay. We actually have somebody who was running for governor of California. He was in the election. Somebody who just went through what this corruption we just saw happening in Korea. So Louis, I'm going to bring you up here. I'll plug in your computer. We'll have the guys in the back put up on the screen, and you will have the floor, sir. But South Korean delegation, thank you so much.
Why, look at there. Alrighty, let's test this out. Boom, boom, that works. Alright folks, my name is Louis Herms. Hello. I know 4 or 5 of you may know me. My platform, which I'm more known for, is actually screwbiggov.com. That's where my documentary, so on and so forth. And we just finished up the primary on June 2nd, and I promised my wife, because it was a year-long journey, that we would do something. So we went to Hawaii after that, and I spent about 40 hours working on this presentation from Hawaii. So I don't see her, so she may have left me already. But, you know, if anybody's been in this fight for a while, they know that's just the way it works, right? So I decided to write something. I'm going to have a film come out eventually. I'm a documentarian. It's called The Great American PSYOP, and I kind of want to do an offshoot of that because the way we're lied to. So I'm going to start off with this just to give you some context. It's going to be very interesting, and I would suggest for the first 5 minutes you put on your tinfoil hat because I will be a bit conspiratorial. 1776. Well, that was a great year, wasn't it? Declaration of Independence. A lot of things happened, but you know what else happened in 1776 is this little group called the Illuminati was formed. Now, it's just a conspiracy theory, though, so let's not take it too serious. But what was interesting is, I would say if I wanted to take over the greatest country in the world, I would probably use a secret society to do that. That makes sense, right? So they were formed in Bavaria, right, named the Illuminati, and their number one goal at the time was really to suppress Christianity, because Christianity was on the move, right? And I'm going to explain some infiltration in regards to that. One of my favorite, or the most favorite Bible verse for me is Matthew 5:5, the meek shall inherit the earth. But it's because I understand what the true meaning means, and most people don't. If you look up the origins of meek, it's exactly opposite from 90% of the pastors that they're telling you. 90% of the pastors are telling you that meek is weak, docile, just pray, don't do anything. Right? That is one of the biggest psyops that's ever been perpetrated upon man. If we understood that meek meant you fight for others, you stand up for those that can stand up for themselves, we wouldn't be here today because every Christian would have already done that. So we need to change that psychology. But that psychology was developed by groups like the Illuminati, because that's how they've convinced, through corporate churches, so on and so forth, to keep us docile. It's very important. And of course, they had this other little goal called world domination. So, the Illuminati was, we were told, by the way, you can Google this today. If you Google it, your first 10 pages of Google are going to tell you the Illuminati was forcibly disbanded in 1787. Any search engine will tell you that. Okay, so if in 1787 that happened, why did George Washington say this in 1798? So 11 years after it was supposedly disbanded, he said, he wrote a letter in September, I have heard much of the nefarious and dangerous plan and doctrines of the Illuminati, but never saw the book until you were pleased to send it to me. That's 11 years after they're supposed to be disbanded. Google lies. The internet lies. We all figured that out. I don't want to upset you, but virtually every AI search engine lies to you also. Sorry. In October, he said, of 1798, 11 years after their so-called banning, it was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than I am, George Washington. You see what we're dealing with? Now, that's just a conspiracy. I'm not saying it exists. I do have my tinfoil hat. But here we go. Interesting enough, in 1995, this gentleman named Fritz Springmeier wrote a book called The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, talking about the 13 bloodlines. Have you ever heard of the 13 bloodlines? Does anybody think they may exist? Okay. And are they secret for a reason? Of course they are. That's how they operate, right? Did you know that this book was found in 2011 when we raided the Osama bin Laden compound? You want to hear something more amazing? Thank you, Donald Trump and the Trump administration in 2017. This complete book, over 200 pages, as you can find it right now, is at CIA.gov. You think they may be telling us something? So, if this was completely disbanded in 1787, why on earth would the book be on CIA.gov in 2017 moving forward? Maybe, just maybe, there are some secret societies working in the background. So what I'm trying to do, this has nothing to do with the Illuminati, but I'm trying to set the table of how we've been dealing with this mess for a long time to get here, directly to election fraud. So, the grand plan, fast forward about 100 years to 1871. That's when our corporation of government was established. You ever hear of that? Okay. Is it a lie? No, that's actually the truth. That's when they formed the corporation, right? It's called the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871. So if I wanted to steal a country from the inside, that would have been one of the first things I do. One of the second things I would do is in 1913, I would figure out how to control the money. How would I do that? I would form the Federal Reserve Act. Oh, another fact. That created the central banking system. That created your fiat currency. That gave them unlimited power to print your money. This is how they control the interest rates from the feds. Interesting. And this is also their excuse on how they set us up for income taxes. You think that may be a great way to try to control us from the inside? That was 1913. And then, 1933, they figured out how to control the economy. You know what they did? The gold standard was eliminated. We all talk about getting back to the gold standard. There's a reason why. They eliminated in 1933. In fact, FDR made it so they had to, you as a citizen had to forfeit everything but $100 of your gold and silver. That's in the United States of America that happened. Crazy. You know what happened a few years later? They manufactured increased gold when the government owned it by 85%. Overnight, in one day. This is how they controlled it from the inside. These are important to set the tables for election fraud. So, fast forward to World War II. I'm sure we've all heard of World War II. Pretty serious. How many people believe that the United States of America won World War II? Not many hands went up. Interesting. We may have, we may not have. I think there's both. But you know what we did a few days before they surrendered in Nazi Germany? We actually captured von Braun's, Werner von Braun's complete rocket team. These are the brilliant minds. We can capture, and immediately we started negotiating with them in the background. A few days later, Nazi Germany surrendered. Now think about this. So we grabbed the Nazis and said, come be our friends, work for us. A few days later, Nazi Germany surrendered. The official story was they did, or did they surrender? I think maybe they didn't all surrender. But here's where it's big, and this is where it matters today. The UN Charter was signed, and they coined the term NGO. What's an NGO? Non-government organization. A new world structure began on June 26, 1945. Look at this. May, June, all 1945. July 1920, 1945, Operation Overcast was launched. You may not recognize that because the official name now is Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip is when 1,600 Nazis came over here, and we brought them over under the guise of they're going to help us explore space and create rockets. Okay. Well, interesting enough, the real Operation Paperclip, you know who those scientists and engineers were? They're chemical and biological weapons experts. They worked on sarin and Nazi nerve gas programs. They had mind control psychological warfare specialists. Anybody can say MK Ultra. Aviation and stealth technology. Medical researchers involved in hypothermia, high altitude, and infectious disease experiments on prisoners. That's who we brought over. Why is that important? Because soon thereafter, the CIA was formed, formerly known as the OSS. If anybody's seen my documentaries, they know I talk a lot about this. Right? The DOD was formed, the National Security Council, and the U.S. Air Force, which we can call, I believe, let's just call it the legal birth of the deep state. In 1947. 1948, what happened? Why, look at there. 1948, the CIA started manipulating foreign elections. Well, that was quick. They've only been around a year and they're already manipulating foreign elections. This is all pre-planned, guys. None of this is by happenstance. This is all the way it was meant to be and supposed to be. 1948, the CIA foreign election interference was deep. I'll just give you a cool thing. So they did a lot of ballot harvesting. There's actually an ex-CIA person in here that will tell you about ballot harvesting in other countries. If he wants to step up, you talk to him later. I can tell you that there was a pattern set, and it was during the Cold War. And what the CIA did is they funded political parties and candidates. The media disinformation, and they forged documents, and they did a lot of get out the vote drives. I will tell you now, and I know Mark Cook will tell you too, there's people in our so-called movement that are working constantly on get out the vote drive and making sure you mail in those ballots. They're controlled opposition. They're not your friend. They have made long, pretty hair, but they're not your friend. I'm just saying. In some cases, direct vote manipulation, bribes, supporting coups when elections didn't go their way, i.e. Guatemala and Chile. My wife would be very proud of me the way I just said Guatemala. So this is important because this is exactly what happens inside of our own country. It was tested outside, brought inside. Here's something I talked to at length, and it's called the 50-50 PSYOP. And it's frustrating for me. And 80% of you are guilty of it. Doesn't make me better than you, it just says I recognized it. Do you ever hear red versus blue? Black versus white? Right? It goes on and on. Conservative versus liberal, Democrat, Republican. It's constant. It's a PSYOP, and I can prove it's a PSYOP. Did you know George Washington, John Adams, James Madison all indicated the death of America would be a two-party system? Do you know Thomas Jefferson said, if I had to pick a party to get to heaven, I'm not going to pick a party and I'm not going to heaven? Thomas Jefferson knew. The two-party system is a PSYOP. I believe President Trump is taking down the Democratic Party right now, the Democrat Party, and I believe the Republican Party will soon follow. The second we put party before policy or before people, we lost. The PSYOP is 50-50. It's always 50-50. Everything. So I can tell you if there's a rise up and they have 60% Democrats, they're going to push them down until they get it to 50, or at least the illusion of being 50. If the conservatives rise up, which I believe we're probably about 67%, the illusion they're going to make is 50-50. Why do they need the illusion to be 50-50? Because either way they want an election to go, they win, we lose. And we accept it. Because it's 50-50. Of course it could happen. One day it'll happen this way. And I'm going to give you a little bit of proof of that right here. The rise of the swing states, 1952, the phrase swing state was coined. Swing states, interesting. This is going to surprise you. Did you know in 1960 that Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina were all considered Republican red states? Did you know that in 1960 Georgia, Florida, Arizona, and Nevada were all considered Democrat states? Huh. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it completely opposite now? We've been lied to. We've been completely manipulated. The goal is to get you to think that there are actual swing states. There are not swing states. There never has been swing states. It's a fucking lie. And I don't excuse my language because I'm pissed. We have to snap out of it. Swing states don't exist. 50-50 doesn't exist. It does not exist. It's an illusion. It's a PSYOP. And the reason for the PSYOP is so when we lose, we say, okay, we'll get them next time. And it happens. And I'm going to show you proof moving forward here that it happens. Something happened, though. In 1960, I call him the first disruptor. Did Kennedy already know the game? Did maybe the Chicago mob help him steal Illinois? Which, by the way, they were talking about being a 50-50 state at the time. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. I think he may have had something figured out. So let me show you what happened between 60 and 78, and I'm going to whip through these really, really quick, but there's a couple that I'm going to point out. The fight for voting rights and access was huge. Now, some of it was legitimate, and a lot of it, I think, was for public view, so they can convince you and make us docile, make us what we used to think was meek, we don't now, correct? They want to make us feel that they've got it all handled. So what they did is they flooded our brains with Civil Rights Act of 1960, James Meredith enrolls at Ole Miss, Appalachian School Walkout, March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, get rid of the poll tax, Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 65, Court enforces voting rights, Loving versus Virginia, Fair Housing Act, Voting Rights Amendment 18, and then the 26th Amendment lowers voting age completely in 1971, 1975, Voting Rights Act amendments, and of course, Civil Service Reform Act in 1978. So the goal was, some of these may have helped, but the goal was, the psychology was, we are government, we're taking care of you. We've got you. One of the single biggest issues in this right here, I believe, was the 1975 Voting Rights Act. So it does strengthen the protections against discrimination and expands language access in voting. Wait, back up. Expands language access in voting? Should we have multi-languages in voting? I'm wondering, because I would think if you're a citizen, you should have to learn, maybe assimilate. Like, by the way, we have the largest amount of legal immigration in the world in our country already. Legal. And they try to demonize President Trump, right? The largest legal immigration. So if you come over here legally and you talk to people that have gone through the process and you say, would you be willing to assimilate? They go, not only would I be willing to assimilate, I would love to assimilate. I love America. Okay, would you be willing to learn language? Absolutely, I'd be willing to learn. Okay, so why would we have to start putting in dozens of different languages in there? Unless it was to steal the vote. Maybe that's why. Disruptor number 2, Reagan-Bush 80. Did you notice what their slogan was, by the way? Let's make America great again. Thought that was original? Right there. That was Bush and the great Ronald Reagan. Leadership experience, a new beginning. Now, why is this so important? Because I believe that Reagan upset the apple cart. And I believe that's why Reagan got shot just 69 days into his administration. Now look at this. If you think this may not have been planned, if you think this is just some wacko off the hook that was in love with Jodie Foster, well, let me give you some information. The cowboy, the disruptor at the time, he didn't follow the plan. He disrupted the deep state apparatus. He probably promised them that he was going to follow the rules and did not. March 30th, 1981, he was shot by John Hinckley Jr. Hinckley was MK Ultra. Okay? And I can give you some proof of that. Hinckley stalked Jodie Foster at Yale. He actually enrolled at Yale just to take a class. His father paid for that. Why does that matter? Many people don't know that Hinckley's father was directly connected to George Bush, who also went to Yale and was a key player of the secret society Skull and Bones. And I believe had something to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. See the connections there? Do you think that this Hinckley was just some crazy guy, or maybe he was designated to go kill Ronald Reagan? I think it's probably pretty obvious. I don't know why you take a 22 to go kill anybody, but hey, I mean, that's his deal. So Bush would have benefited the most if Reagan would have gotten killed. I know many of you may love Bush. There we go. Now we're awake. Love it. June 25th, 1984, I talk about this a lot. I will not go into detail on this, but the Chevron deference came into play. The guise of the Chevron deference is it was too much to put everything through our legislative body, which was the rule in order to get fines, fees, and create laws. So what they did is they created the Chevron deference, and they thought That's what they said. They thought it'd be great for deregulation, but after Reagan, it turned out to be a deep state's wet dream. Yes, I did add the word wet in there. So the NGOs and three-letter agencies then used it to fine and regulate the hell out of the people until its reversal, thank God, 40 years later. The Chevron reversal, I think, is the SCOTUS's biggest decision in the last 50 years. But here's the problem. It needs to be affirmed. What does that mean? That means somebody in this room or somebody being illegally fined, I'm being held accountable for something I should not, whatever that is, and bring it back up and have them do an affirmation. And if it gets all the way to SCOTUS, they'll say, that's true, that's exactly what this is talking about, and then it's done because now they have the precedence and everybody can use it after that when you go to court. And all these NGOs, in my opinion, will fall apart if this happens. That's how we can make a difference. How does that have anything to do with elections? Oh, the 50-50 PSYOP. Interesting. Everything's 50-50. That's the goal. They want us to think 50-50. So right before what happened next, there was a lot of talk of everything's even. It's just really hard. We don't have any idea who's going to win the upcoming elections in 2000. Year 2000. Would it be blue? Would it be red? They didn't know. They had no idea. But funny enough, in March of 2000 in Florida, Smartmatic was put together by a bunch of Venezuelans, and that just happens to be what they promised would secure our elections in the future. But Smartmatic, and there's also Dominion and ESS, as you know, they weren't getting any traction. Well, bang, look what happened next. Just a few months later, after Smartmatic wasn't getting any traction, the famous hanging Chad. Oh, not the hanging Chad. That should be hung. So, hanging Chad is Florida, November 2000. Right? Interesting enough. So that set precedence. It freaked everybody out. And look at this. So we had a problem, and then we had a reaction where the public's like, well, what do we do about it? The hanging Chad. We can't have a hanging Chad. These 50-50 elections have to be fair. So the solution came in, and what was the solution? The solution was, of course, use the machines, and you'll never have a problem again. You see how all of this correlates together? It's very, very important. And then 9/11. 9/11. Tragedy. So many people died. But what happened because of 9/11? Can you see the bottom of the screen? The Patriot Act. Problem, solution. Right? Problem, reaction, solution. Somebody agrees. But let's just explain the Patriot Act really. I call it the Surveillance State Act, and it's election control. How does the Patriot Act have anything to do with election control? Well, let me show you. So there's mass surveillance. It legalized total data collection for dossiers, blackmail, and voter control. Blackmail. So now you can find people that you want to do nefarious things in election, and you find them ahead of time because now we have all the surveillance and we blackmail them ahead of time. See how that works? Influence ops, profile, suppress key voters, officials, and challenges. Because they knew everything about us, they knew all our demographics, they already knew the way we were going to vote before we voted, therefore they can do that. And then the big tech alliance, which enabled censorship and election interference via Silicon Valley. So massive election interference. All of this is because of the Patriot Act, by the way. And the voting machines, as we know, real-time monitoring, hidden manipulation under national security guise, right? That's why we couldn't audit them properly originally. And then the terror label. is to silence any opposition, anybody that would speak against that. And then the third disruptor happened in 2015. Whoa, who is this guy? So the third disruptor, President Donald Trump, and this is, I believe, this is why the deep state accelerated operations into election fraud. They thought they had this one locked up because they were spending all their time polling ahead of time, so they knew how they could manipulate the election ahead of time. Here's the problem. Voters that were voting for President Trump, 48% refused to tell the pollers who they were voting for. So they were shocked on that day. But because of it, they went back to this again. The 50-50 PSYOP, everything's 50-50. Why did they do this? This is going to shock you, but in 2018, I think may have been the single most important day of election fraud that happened. Here's why. You had 4 Republicans in Orange County congressional seats, Ed Royce, Mimi Walters, Dana Rohrabacher, and Darrell Issa. I'm sure many of you know this, right? All 4 of them they were winning, and then the vote stopped, and at 4 a.m. in the morning, the ballot harvesting were dropped. And what happened? All 4 of those Republicans got beat out by the Blues, and there's a lovely Katie Porter in the middle. They stole it. In 2018, they ballot harvested, and do you think they already knew how to ballot harvest? I can tell you they've been doing it all over the world for several decades before this, so they knew how to ballot harvest. What they didn't know is how the Republicans would react. Well, here's the reaction. We'll get them next time. I believe on this date, in 2018, the deep state knew that they stole the 2020 election already, because they knew we did not have the appetite to fight. And the proof of this is Mark Cook just said the lovely Koreans are where we were in 2020. Yes, in regards to election fraud, no, as in regards to the appetite to fight, because we're still not fighting. I can tell you, I put out some major posts, some major organizations, and funded to get people in front of the LA County Central County office, and barely anybody showed up. Do we really think we're going to take back our country when we're sitting on our ass? I don't think it's going to happen. Now, I do understand there's a major PSYOP at foot. I get it. I get that Sean Hannity likes to tell people you're not conservative if you protest, you're not conservative if you boycott, and you're not conservative if you raise your voice. That sounds like the old definition of meek, right? That's a game. That's a PSYOP. Fox News is a PSYOP. Yes, Greg Gutfeld may be funny, but it's a PSYOP. It's a way to control us. But be very, very careful of that, because we're not standing up. We the people are the plan. We always have been the plan. I can tell you that 5 years ago, I determined that trust the plan didn't mean what people were interpreting it to mean. In fact, I went through the drops myself, and I can tell you that 42 times it said trust the plan, and 147 times it said the people. The people are the plan. We've always been the plan. And I don't think President Trump's coming in on a white Pegasus to save us any day soon. I do think that there's many people willing to support us when we stand up, though. Are we ready to stand up? Are we willing to have our voices heard and say, screw the Hannitys of the world? We must stand up. This is the only way we're going to take our country back. And then what happened? COVID, mail-in ballots. Oh, we're going to save the world with mail-in ballots. We got your back right now. We're going to save the world because mail-in ballots, that's what's going to keep you more than 6 feet apart. You got to mail in those ballots. I'll tell you something fascinating. So the baddies established the legal framework. They definitely established the psychology, and they did the infrastructure. So we are currently a complete and utter captured operation right now. Completely captured. Maybe President Trump's not captured. But I can tell you, we're a captured operation. Can we act more like a caged lion, though? Are we willing to do that now? Are we finally ready to say, okay, am I going to have to say it? Am I going to have to say, let's be South Korea? Sounds weird, doesn't it? 200,000 people show up to protest after a second steal when we've been stolen after stolen after stolen after stolen, and we do nothing. This is the time. But they're right back at it again, right before this last election. Oh, 50-50. We don't know what's going to happen. 50-50. So right in 2020, what happened when you believe 50-50? Trump was leading, and the big F-bomb dropped. Boom. There it is. And suddenly, Biden, I don't know if this is 2, 3, or 4, but suddenly Joe Biden was the winner. Right? Because it convinced us of a 50-50. And then what happened after was fascinating. Fascinating. Anybody that was at J6, I was, we know it was fascinating. I think one of the main reasons nobody stands up is because some people at J6 got arrested. Right? But there's 2 million people at J6. I was at J6. Right? There wasn't 1 million people that got arrested. But they sure abused the people that did. God bless their hearts. They absolutely did. But here's what happened. It's the warfare of words by all of these. And yes, sorry guys, Fox News is right there. I know it hurts. The LA Times said false claims. Guardian said without evidence. New York Times said unfounded, debunked, conspiracy theory. Framing it eroding trust on preview challenges. CNN said Trump sowing doubt. LA Times baseless California election fraud. I just heard that one. Without proof. NPR false claims. This is all MK Ultra guys live. That's what that is. They repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until we believe it. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you I'm not susceptible to it. I'm going to tell you that on 9/11, I watched the towers fell, and I'm screaming at the TV on 9/11 controlled demolition. Screaming at it. Absolutely. Right? Then 3 days after watching the news tell me it was something else, I'm like, let's go get them. I completely took out my discernment, my God-given gift, and I was completely MK Ultra'd for a few years. And I was awake. Don't think it can't happen to you. We have to be always using our discernment, completely connected to God Almighty as much as we possibly can to win this war. So that's what they do. The MK Ultra is very strong, and it keeps going on and on and on. So what do they say? No widespread election fraud. Okay. Well, they're right. There is no widespread election fraud because it doesn't need to be. You can do it in isolated cases, and you can win any election you want to win. All court cases were lost. Well, they didn't see all the evidence in all the court cases, did they? Right? So they throw them out on standing. All audits prove no fraud. Well, if you understand the way of the audits, they only audit what the fake numbers were already telling them to audit. It's all BS. And then anybody that would stand up became a targeted individual. God bless Tina Peters. Anybody that tried to do the right thing, whistleblowers were targeted. I was poisoned 2 times. I know Mark Cook has gone through it. He may not say he's targeted, but I've seen how many times his RV broke down. So I certainly believe something's happening there. Anybody that was standing up is targeted. That's another way of suppression. Because if you're watching somebody wonderful like Tina Peters being targeted, why on earth would you stand up? Well, we have to fight for this, and we have to be willing to give it everything we've got. So here's the links of events for election fraud, and I'm going to hurry up through this. Foundation of control, power is centralized, they built the machine, they engineer the election systems, they test this, normalize it, and deploy it. That's a psyop to make sure we know it's okay. They execute, they control the narrative, which I showed you, and the result is you have an illusion of choice where we think we voted for somebody and, well, we get them next time, but it's always fake. And I mean virtually almost always. So I did something. One of my biggest frustrations was that everything I would read would always say the elections they were good, there's nothing wrong. So I started to go to AI and I went to Grok. Everybody trusts Grok. Okay. Well, Grok was telling me constantly there was no fraud. There's no, and Grok started saying the same thing. There's no widespread election fraud, using the same tropes over and over. And I was like, wow, this is a little bit weird. So after me arguing with Grok for a long time, and I'm very clear, I never call Grok a name. I say, you're a robot, you're a bunch of ones and zeros. And that's how I deal with this robot. But anyways, it's a very important search tool. So I said, okay, Grok, can we play a game? I'd love to play a game. Let's play a game of discernment and math. Grok says, okay, I got you on this one. I go, great, let's play it. I said, so, I started off with, I said, so, what are the odds that Biden would win an election in Arizona, which he didn't campaign for or visit, where President Trump had a 97-mile caravan, and it's a pro-2A state that's voted Republican for a long time? What are the odds? And it was some crazy number, like 1 in 50 maybe. I said, okay, fair enough. I go, what are the odds that basement Biden would have secured tens of millions of more votes than Obama did when he didn't do anything to ever try to earn those votes? Oh, it's like a 1 to 500, I don't know what the number, it was astronomical. It could never happen. I go, okay. Remember that F chart I put up here just a moment ago, right? I said, what are the odds that that graph can be like that in not 1, but 7 swing states? And then I said, okay, add all the numbers up together, what are the odds, according to your math that you're doing with your discernment, not mine, that Biden could win? And he said, it'd be a 55 trillion to 1 chance for Biden to win the election. I have the film. I did it all, so it was recorded. You could see me talking to Grok at the time for proof of it. Blow you away. The math doesn't lie. Even Grok said 55 trillion to 1 chance, or 1 in 55 trillion chance. The reason why I did that is because it was very hard to get through to what we call normies. What we tend to do is we tend to truth barf on the people that we want to convince of something, when we need to speak to them where they're at. So if you start speaking to them in just the math of it, some of them will come around and say, okay, well, let me take a look. And then you can dive in deeper. And then 2024 comes and Trump wins, everybody's excited. Well, I predicted that Trump was going to win 2024 because Kamala was such a weak candidate. They wouldn't be able to get enough ballots, so they're going to focus all their time where? Down ballot elections, Senate House races, local elections. What do you think is exactly what happened in 2024? Because they wanted, I've always said the micro fixes the macro. Well, the micro can also destroy the macro, so they knew that this is their best way to fight against President Trump and his agenda. So what happened is I created something while I was running for governor. And I was the first person in history to visit all 50 California county ROVs, that's registered voters' offices in California. In 29 days I did this, to interview them. I think only about 35 actually interviewed me. A lot of them dodged me. But we were very specific in the way we asked them questions, so I would never ask them questions to add up to my outcome sequentially. I'd ask another question here, talk about something else, so on and so forth. So we got a lot of answers. So I want to explain the psychology So in the central counting centers, it's a full transparency psyop. I will tell you that most of the county clerks and the ROVs absolutely believe they're doing a great job. They believe that. Some of them are doing a really good job. They don't know, right? But here's the way it works. It takes 2 years to get a signature verification certificate through the FBI if you want to do forensics on a signature. It takes less than 5 seconds for somebody trained for 2 days to verify a signature in an election. 5 seconds. How's that possible? Am I missing something? Right? And of course you have the mail-in ballot. So there's a lot of theories on how this works. I'm just going to give you one basic, and it's very simple. May 4th in California, they started doing the mail-in ballots. What happens is they get the mail-in, and I've asked all the ROVs this, and you know what all of them said? I said, do you count these ballots before the actual election day on June 2nd? And they said, we absolutely do. We start counting them right away. Okay, so they're already counting ballots before the election. Think about that. But don't worry, Lewis, because it's air-gapped. The system go to the internet. But guess what? It doesn't have to go to the internet, because here's the way it works. The mail-in ballots come in, they're pre-calculating all of these. They will all tell you on June 2nd, when the polls close, they'll take that USB drive, they'll move it over here, and they'll plug it over here, and then all that data is live. So let's assume that they're not lying. Let's assume that no internet, it's no access whatsoever. It doesn't have to be anymore, because they move those over, and then at that moment they know what percentage they need. And what happens? Go figure. All the counting stops, and it suddenly takes 3, 4, 7 more days to count all the other ballots. And that's when that F-bomb curve happens again and again and again. It's all a complete psyop all the way across the board. And I just want to throw something out here. If somebody says, but there's wet signatures on the actual envelopes when they come in, and they match what's on the DMV records. Has anybody ever heard of an auto pen? Did you know there's CNC machines that can do over 20,000 of these within a few hours? You literally just put the digital image in there, all over the place. So don't. It absolutely can. And it would probably match closer to a signature than normal because you have a machine doing it for you. So, Los Angeles County, and I'll finish with this. This is how much the LA County ROV made in 2024. His compensation was $650,424. That's a pretty well-paid job for somebody that doesn't work full-time, by the way. Over $650,000. Do you think that may be enough money to pay somebody off to look the other way on something? Or maybe be involved? And I'm sure there's a lot more bonuses that come with that. This is facts. Look this up. So in LA City, by the way, I have an investigator involved right now.